Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now, Tuesday, May 30th. Ian Cameron with you, and we are joined by a special guest today, a sports bettor, NHL bettor for many years, Ghost Picks Jimmy. Follow him on Twitter at ghostpicks_ATS on Twitter. Jimmy, welcome to the Ice Guys show. I know you're just as excited as me for the Stanley Cup Finals coming up, and you're rocking the Panthers jersey too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I appreciate you reaching out, obviously. I love doing kind of collaborations with sports bettors and kind of people that have been in this industry a little bit longer than 1 or 2 years, and people we see all over the internet doing it. So it feels good to kind of do a little collab with you, and I hope that we can make something fun today, especially with this amazing never Stanley Cup finals here, and I'm excited. Vegas has had one heck of a run here since 2017, and Florida's looking for their first as well. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, while they grumble here in Canada under their breath about another year with no Canadian team in the Stanley Cup final. Oh, Gary Bettman's got his dream Stanley Cup final. Two Southern teams, two teams he's trying to grow the sport in, trying to grow the NHL in, while they're grumbling and they're pissed off. I'm a hockey fan. I don't give a damn about any of that stuff. I want to just see a good Stanley Cup final. I want to see two good teams go at it. And to be quite honest with you, Jimmy, I'm fucking into this Stanley Cup final. I'm excited for it. I am. I think these are two great hockey teams. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, let's talk Jimmy. How long have you been at this as a full-time sports bettor? I know you've got a great YouTube channel going. I know it's in the 5 figures as far as subscribers are concerned on that channel that you run. So you've done great work with that. I can tell you I've been at it for 12 years. Sportsmemo.com was my beginning in 2012. Feels like a long time ago. Various websites. Lucky to say I'm over 23,000 Twitter followers now, which is I don't know how. I'm amazed 23,000 people give a two shits about what I have to say and think, but I certainly am humbled by it. But Jimmy, talk about you and how you got into the business and your love for sports, your love for sports betting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very interesting story. It's a very unique story. I think just like everybody else growing up as a kid, I kind of had like this weird flower shop that you were allowed to gamble at. And it was kind of like that unforeseen stuff that goes on throughout the communities. And it's kind of like the typical thing you see in a movie. And I end up gambling in the NFL, right? And then I'm from Northeast Pennsylvania. So it's not like hockey was a big thing or anything like that at the time, but developed a love for gambling, obviously maybe a little bit too much of a love. And then while I was in the military, actually, I started like posting a lot of the stuff I was doing on YouTube. The phones start becoming a big thing. And then I would say around 2015 is when I was really trying to take this thing to real levels. And then by 2017, I had people from graduating Baylor, Canadians, some guys from England as well, kind of linking up with me and my team on my website. And we developed a great business out of it. And, it's a daily grind. Like you said, I have a pretty decent YouTube channel, pretty great following over on TikTok now as well. I'm pulling some heavy numbers over there for some reason, but, the way that the times are changing and, doing this every single day. I love hockey more and more every day. It's my favorite sport to watch now. And it's kind of a brief background of how I kind of got into this.
I love it. I love the fact that what you just said, you've become a huge hockey fan to the point that it's your favorite sport to watch now.
Without a doubt.
And obviously for me, it's been hockey and football pretty much tied, as my favorite two sports to watch. And actually they're my two most profitable sports long-term. They're two of the sports that I've had the most success with. And, I love all football, NFL, college football. CFL is going to start next week. I'm so looking forward to that. I'm a Hamilton Tiger Cats season ticket holder. You see the sign there in the background. We're ready to rock with Bo Levi Mitchell this year. Hopefully a big
yeah.
year ahead. We've got USFL and XFL. Hell, I'm handicapping those two sports right now, those two football leagues right now, the spring leagues. So I love football, but man, hockey's right there. It's just such an incredible sport. There's no question. And, I find that they've got to just do a better job marketing their players and marketing the sport. The NHL, I mean, to me, it's great to see Matthew Tkachuk on the NBA on TNT the other night with the guys, Ernie, Kenny, Chuck, and Shaq, and that's huge for the league to promote it. But when TNT and Charles Barkley, are doing the best job to promote your sport, you're doing something wrong as a league. The NHL's got to be a little bit better in a bunch of areas. But I love that you love hockey, someone from the United States, Jimmy, because I can't believe it when ESPN, Jimmy, I don't know how closely you see the tweets from the ESPN Twitter regarding hockey. They'll post a highlight from a hockey game, and I'm seeing people just react and reply to it. Not a sport. Do you know how many times I see that? Not a sport. And I feel like saying to them, you're fucking idiots, man. I mean, you don't know what you're missing. This is such an incredible sport. The pain and just what these players will put themselves through physically, mentally, emotionally to get their name on the Stanley Cup is something you will never see in any other sport. And I've got to watch and see this disrespect that people have on Twitter for hockey when ESPN posts a clip saying not a sport. And I know, look, hockey's got a lot of room to grow in the United States. It's behind football. It's behind basketball. There was even a time it was way behind baseball, but I think they're starting to even close the gap a little bit on baseball at least. But when I see that, it just makes me livid, man.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm glad you kind of said about the awareness for hockey, and I think that this finals is massive for that. Vegas and Florida, you're talking two of the best places in America that people like to go. And in, Florida, down in Fort Lauderdale, that area, and their arena and everything, it's just this alone, this NHL Stanley Cup alone is going to boost the awareness of the NHL in America, and it's going to make more fans. And I think you're right. I think they do need to do a better job promoting it. Like I said, not being a hockey fan, growing up, and then starting to watch hockey and then get into gambling with it, and then sitting, front rows or second or third row up. And mind you, I have zero knowledge of hockey growing up, right? I used to wear Flyers jerseys and play hockey as a kid with, but I never really knew the hockey game like that. And when you go and you see it and you're there watching these players, the athleticism is on another level. I'm mind blown every time I go to a hockey game and watching these guys. Like we were talking about Jack Hughes or Connor McDavid, like these guys on skates, they do something that they will never be able to, like people will ever be able to do it again. It's remarkable. And I'm very excited that Vegas and Florida made it into the Stanley Cup. It's going to be big for the sport.
It is. And where are you residing right now? I should ask that.
I'm kind of close to Philadelphia.
Close to Philly. Okay, good stuff. So obviously the Flyers are in a tough time right now. They're rebuilding. It's not going well. Obviously, they just fired their GM. They made a front office shakeup. Of course, Keith Jones is now the president of hockey operations, and now Daniel Briere, the general manager of the Philadelphia Flyers. So they've got a lot of work to do, and they're in a tough spot because it seems like there's very few teams getting worse, a lot getting better, especially in the Eastern Conference. So it's going to be a while. And look, the Flyers have had some tough years, and I'm sure you can speak to it. The Eagles and the Sixers have taken over the city. Eagles, of course, they won the Super Bowl with Foles a few years ago. They got to the Super Bowl this year. They just locked up Jalen Hurts long term at quarterback, and of course, in the other Philly team, you got the Sixers, who have been knocking on the door of the conference finals for several years in the NBA. Can't get over that second round hump. They not surprisingly get rid of Doc Rivers, who's had a brutal time closing out series here the last few years. And they're going to hope they go from a doctor to another hospital staff member, the nurse, from the doctor to the nurse, to change things and get them over this hump now with Nick Nurse becoming the head coach. So I know locally for you, Jimmy, the Flyers, I mean, tough times in that city when you see, the Eagles and the Sixers are contending for titles and the Flyers are bringing up the rear in one of the worst teams in the NHL, and not even is a sniff of winning the lottery this year and trying to get Connor Bedard, which obviously a player that went to Chicago.
Yeah, and that story is is amazing. The fact that Chicago beat Pitt at the end of the year, all that talk, it was just a wild story for Bedard, and I'm excited to see how he performs in the NHL. I mean, kind of a Austin Matthews / Connor McDavid style guy. He's got that super fast shot, but I'll be interested to see how he performs with the top dogs. But you're right. The Flyers just, again, they don't have pull in Philly. I think even if they did well, they would boost their fan base maybe for the playoffs. But this area is ran by the Philadelphia Eagles. It doesn't matter. It always will be. I'm telling you, if you've never been to an Eagles game, it is something that everybody in the world should. I've been all over the world, seen almost every sport.
Get to the link. There you go. That's what you're trying to say. Yeah.
Nothing compared to an Eagles game. Nothing.
Yeah, and obviously there's a fan base that booed Santa Claus in an Eagle game years and years ago. So you know how wild they can be. A little bit influenced by some libations, I'm sure, but that's okay. That's why we go to sporting events. We have our fun. Right. We get shit-faced, so be it. Speaking of getting shit-faced, it was a very appropriate time that we're doing this recording of this show the day after Memorial Day, considering your service academy background. No question about that. But Memorial Day weekend for you, how was that? And talk about that a little bit, just that experience being in the Army.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. I mean, it's so real in the moment. And now that I have time to reflect on it, and, it's almost breathtaking, the stuff you miss, the stuff that you don't miss, and then, the things you've experienced, and then the things that, you wish you could have changed, or things you wish you could have done, just like everything else in the world, every job that you had in the world. You kind of look back and you kind of reflect after a long time sometimes. And I sit there and, Memorial Day for me isn't about anything that I've ever done. I'm alive and I am well. It's always to me about, some of my friends that unfortunately are no longer here, or, even the friends that I know and the stories that I know that are just mind blowing to me. And, it's always a good time to reflect on them, maybe reach out. I have a good close buddy, reach out to his family and, just ask them how they're doing. And that's what it's about to me. I'm alive. I'm well. I had a terrific job. That was my job. And, fortunately for me, everything went well. And that's what it's about for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, as we said yesterday on our live show, on Monday, we mentioned it. And again, we wish everyone a belated happy Memorial Day and weekend. And hopefully, again, thanks to the everybody that serves, not only in the U.S., but abroad as well, around the world. Jimmy, let's get into some hockey. We've got the Stanley Cup Finals. We've got a series price, obviously. That's the thing about sports betting these days. I remember when I first started 12 years ago, you'd have to wait till the next day before they finally posted a damn series price for the next series. Now it's instantly. You're seeing FanDuel and DraftKings and all these different sports books, and even in Las Vegas, just instantly. As soon as that
you're getting
Dallas...
projected.
Yeah,
they project them before you hear it, Game 5, Game 6 of the season or the series before.
Yep.
Oh, if Florida wins, this is the price. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's automatic, and then it's like right after Vegas, I should say, clinched that series last night against Dallas. There, you're seeing the series price get posted. So currently, we see the Vegas Golden Knights minus 130 series favorites over the Florida Panthers. This series, of course, begins Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, with Game 1 between these two teams. I think when you look at, first of all, if you look at forwards specifically, and even the blue line, on paper, you'd probably give Vegas a small edge in both counts. I think line 1 through 4 for them, 1 through 6 on the blue line. But here's the thing that I say about the blue line battle in this series, Jimmy, because I said going into each series, well, I'll take Boston's 1 through 6 on the blue line over Florida's. I'll take Toronto's. I'll take Carolina's. And Florida's blue line outplayed all three of those teams. Yeah. And here's why. We know how good Brandon Montour is. This is the best hockey I've ever seen him play. He's got incredible speed, great transition defenseman, great in his own end, incredible shot, lethal shot from the point, season best in terms of points and production from the blue line for him. We know Aaron Ekblad's been one of the better defensemen in the NHL for a few years. I think Gustav Forsling is someone who's really taken his game forward this year, but I thought there were big question marks with Josh Mahura, with a slow-footed Radko Gudas if on this Florida blue line. That's where they could suffer compared to the depth of some of these other teams. But I'm seeing Mahura, I'm seeing Gudas, Jimmy. These guys playing the best hockey they've ever played. Maybe they're playing over their heads good, but the fact is they are. And that's what's helped Florida get to this point. So whatever lack of depth they were supposed to have on the blue line, it's not showing up because this is the best Josh Mahura I've ever seen. This is the best Radko Gudas I've ever seen. He's not a fast skater, Radko Gudas, but I saw him in that Carolina series, Jimmy. He turned the puck over in the neutral zone, which, as you know, is like a quagmire. You turn the puck over in that area of the ice, you're fucked, a lot of times, and you're going to get scored on. He puts his head down. He gets back in position, and he takes away, I think, what would have been a partial breakaway for Martinook from the Carolina Hurricanes. And I'm like, Radko Gudas just did that? He skated that far back in to get proper position and stop an odd man rush. I've never seen that. That speaks to just how well this guy's playing. Whatever, every ounce of his abilities, he's getting it right now out of himself. And that's what this Florida team is doing, Jimmy, in these playoffs. And it's not symbolized any more clearly than what they are getting from that blue line 1 through 6. The blue line that was supposed to be so inferior to Boston's and Toronto's and Carolina's. And yet here they are as a group 1 through 6. They played well. All 4 lines have stepped up. Matthew Tkachuk's been Mr. Clutch, Jimmy, but Carter Verhaeghe's contributions. Barkov, he wasn't scoring in the first 2 rounds, and he finally did in the conference finals. But what he's done defensively against the best players on the other team, just exceptional, no question. Nick Cousins, a depth forward that stepped up. Duclair has had a very, very good playoffs. How about Ryan Lomberg, the pest? He's irritant as fuck to the opponent. He gets under your skin, but that's why he's there. He goes to the front of the net. He goes to the tough areas of the ice to score goals like he did against Carolina. They're getting contributions from everybody, Jimmy.
Yeah, everything you're saying is music to my ears. You make me want to go bet Florida more. And out of everything I've talked about with this series so far, you couldn't have opened it up with a better intro for Florida. I mean, you're absolutely right. What Gudas is doing right now is unbelievable. Forsling has been playing phenomenal hockey. Ekblad's had some great opportunities too. Montour almost had that game winner open net. I mean, it's been there. Everyone's playing perfect hockey, but there's something with Butch right now that's holding these guys together. That the confidence is at an all-time high after Game 5 in Boston when they're placing that puck. Did you see that little segment they had in the locker room? When we come back here for Game 7, remember this. It's just.
You got the 16 pucks there, 1 for every playoff win. Yep.
Exactly. Yep. And I don't think it's about these guys right now. I think it's about the head honcho coming in here, giving these guys the confidence they need to go. 1-1 in the series between these two teams, and in this year between these two teams. And I tell you what, this is going to be an absolute dogfight. The regular season stats mean nothing. This is who wants it more, who's playing better hockey, and who's confident, just like these guys. Like you said, the blue line has been superb. It's literally been perfect. There's no better 4 lines in NHL that I've seen in a very long time like this year's Boston Bruins. And Florida, they outdid them.
They absolutely did. There's no question. Like I say, they've gotten it. And, of course, the backbone, Sergei Bobrovsky in net, has been absolutely exceptional. You know what's unbelievable about him, Jimmy, is that Sergei Bobrovsky for the last couple of years, let's be truthful here, he hasn't been great. He really hasn't. He's been up and down. He's had some good moments, but he's had a lot of mediocrity. He's had a lot of games where he's been pulled and he's given up 5 or 6 goals. And even this season, the first half was up and down for Sergei Bobrovsky. Post All-Star break, he was kind of up and down again. He gets the illness late in the season. And Alex Lyon, this young journeyman minor league goaltender for much of his career, he's actually in the Flyers organization, previously Alex Lyon. And I never thought he was anything spectacular. And he really struggled both with the Flyers and even at times up and down with their AHL team. His numbers were like, he had an .870 save percentage at one point with the AHL team. And I'm like, that's not good at all. How do you have faith in this guy? But he won a Calder Cup last year in the AHL with the Chicago Wolves. He played great. I think it gave him confidence. He ended up with Florida, called up this year. because obviously Spencer Knight, and we wish Spencer Knight well. He's still could be the future of this team in net, but he's going through some issues off the ice and mental, health struggles, and we wish him well with that. And hopefully he gets back onto the ice at some point for this team. But Alex Lyon saves the day late in the regular season, plays great. They get red hot down the stretch just to get in to the damn playoffs. We're not even talking about them in the Stanley Cup finals without that run. We're not even talking, Jimmy, about them in the Stanley Cup finals or in the playoffs without Paul Maurice lighting his team up publicly in that Toronto game in the regular season when they were really looking like a team that was going to miss the playoffs, and they were playing like horse shit. Complete and utter dog shit in that game against Toronto. I remember it. They were lifeless. They were pathetic. They were losing 2-1, and it could have been a lot worse. And he just says, you're all playing like fucking bitches. You can read his lips on the bench when he just lit them up, tore a fucking strip off them on the bench. And from that moment on, they've been a different team. They came back, won that game, red hot to finish the regular season, got into the playoffs, and the rest is history. Unreal.
Yeah, like I said before, the head honcho controls this team right now. Maurice has been phenomenal. And you know what? You forgot to mention Bennett, and this man has been unbelievable. Sam Bennett's been playing amazing hockey.
He hits everything in sight. Everything.
It's literally everything. And unfortunately, when two of the best teams come together, you could draw aside for A and B, but someone's going to have to win. And this Vegas team is very scary. They are this Vegas team coming up. Scary indeed. I want to mention about Paul Maurice, and I actually said this. We actually had someone that played pro hockey many years. He's living in Florida now, South Florida area. He's gone to a bunch of these Panthers games this season, regular season playoffs. Brett Pepler, he joined me on the show yesterday, and he mentioned, you talked about how this is going to be a big deal now, the Stanley Cup final run for Florida for hockey in that area. Brett Pepler said the same thing yesterday because he runs hockey camps now. He trains kids in the South Florida area now that he's retired. And he said yesterday on the show that registrations have already increased significantly, like the last month or two, with this run starting up for the Florida Panthers. So already we're seeing, a little bit more interest from young kids in that area, South Florida, Miami-Dade County, and Fort Lauderdale, and all those areas around that Sunrise, Florida, where the actual building is, where the team plays. And you're seeing interest go up. Kids are watching this Florida Panthers team in this Stanley Cup playoff run of theirs, and they're saying, wow, they're watching, they're saying, this is a pretty cool sport. It's pretty exciting. Phenomenal. Why wouldn't you think that when you start watching hockey? It's that good. And now all of a sudden they're thinking to themselves, maybe I should not only watch this sport, maybe give it a try playing it. And that's how you start something. That's how you start what Dallas is doing. Texas kids are playing more hockey now. Arizona kids. Austin Matthews isn't in the league right now without the Phoenix Coyotes going there back in 1996. Now, I know they're on their last legs potentially as a franchise. They're tough times right now. But the fact they got there in the first place, if that doesn't happen, we may not see an Austin Matthews now in the NHL, or Tage Thompson for that matter. There's another Arizona kid in the NHL. So that's how you start growing more kids and young players in a state, is seeing a team there and a team have success and go on a long playoff run, and Florida's doing that. And it's going to be good long-term for interest in hockey and developing more hockey players as young kids from that state. Yeah, I would be interested to see if we could get Lyon back here in Philly after that performance he did. Because you're right. It was Bobrovsky was, I think you kind of were easy on him. I think he's been atrocious lately. And you know what? A lot of that had to do with Florida's defense too. I think they were playing very forward, a lot of breakaways. They just weren't playing like they're playing right now. And, that's never good for a goaltender. We've seen that, 2 years ago when, what's his name from Vegas? He leaves, goes to Chicago. And, what?
Fleury.
Yeah.
Fleury.
Yeah. And a lot of that's just because the defense ain't there. It's a lot more than just being a great goaltender, making immaculate saves. If you don't have the guys in front of you doing the right things, you're going to get exposed, just like Fleury did. But you're right. And down in Florida, hockey's becoming a big thing. There's a lot of northern guys coming down, and it's been increasing. I kind of wish that side of Florida, that southeast, understood what kind of that Midwest Tampa area has been doing the last couple of years, because this is two of the best powerhouses in the NHL pretty extremely close. And it's just tough that it's hard to try to bring that northern love down into the southern states. I have a best friend of mine who grew up, big NHL guy, all upstate Minnesota, all of his friends, big hockey guys, a lot in the NHL currently. And he came down, lived in Florida for a couple of years. He said, all right, I got to go back. And I said, why? He's like, my kid's got to play hockey. So these northern kids, they live it, they breed it, they want it. And it's down here in these southern states, it's that love, that passion for it just ain't here yet.
It's not here yet, but there's definitely sowing the seeds of it getting there at some point.
Absolutely.
That kind of love. And this is what helps, a run that the Florida Panthers are on. So we've talked glowingly about everything Florida. And one last point about Maurice. I've always liked Paul Maurice as a head coach from his very beginning, 1995. He started as a very young head coach. I think he was even younger than me, when he started as an NHL head coach in 1995, because I'm 38 now, and he was even younger than that in 1995 when he started with Hartford, who then moved to Carolina. And he had 2 stints with Carolina, coached for the Toronto Maple Leafs briefly, coached for the Winnipeg Jets most recently, and now here he is with the Florida Panthers. He is a smart guy. He's very articulate. He's so well-spoken. He's a great public speaker, great orator. He is one of the best press conference listens in the NHL. He gives you everything. Like, he's so honest. He's just basically going to say whatever the hell is on his mind about his team with great detail. Not one of these, 3-word answers. He goes into incredible detail, and it's good as a bettor and a handicapper, because you actually get good info and you say, this is what he's thinking. He might change the lines. How can I maybe make a bet on that in the next game? He actually gives you, as a bettor, you're actually liking a guy like Maurice, because he says whatever's on his mind, and he'll say, hey, I'm going to change things, or we're going to do this now. We're going to maybe play a little bit more defensive minded. No, we got to open up the attack a bit more. He'll give you all that info. But my problem with the hire in Florida, Jimmy, was they were a transition team last year. They were kind of one of those teams that they traded chances, rushed chances. That's the way they played, a very wide open style. And Maurice is trying to get them to play more of a chip and chase cycle game, heavy on the forecheck style of hockey, which is a complete departure from the way the Panthers played under Joel Quenneville / Andrew Brunette last year when they coached the team. Total change. And it looked like a bad fit early this season. Like, they weren't grasping the system. Maurice was not a good fit. They were struggling. Looked like they were dead halfway through the season, quite honestly, the Florida Panthers. But then they played their best. They got better defensively. Bobrovsky got hot. Lyon chipped in with great goaltending. They grasped the system. They started to have better forecheck. And now that forecheck, Jimmy, it's the fucking hallmark of why they're in the Stanley Cup final right now.
Absolutely.
They are a tenacious forechecking team. They are a heavy cycle team. Once they get that puck moving in the offensive zone with that cycle, and they get it back to the point, a high-low type of game in the offensive zone, it's difficult on the opponent. And that's Maurice's system to a T. And it took them until late March to figure it out and start winning, but they did just in the nick of time, and now here they are. And now I can't say anymore that it was a bad fit. The magical run has proven otherwise.
Yeah, I think the best way to sum up Maurice is that he's just an honest leader. And it's tough to find those these days. It's tough to find those guys that are super honest and are clearly leading a team. He's emotional with the team. The team I've always wondered what it's like to be, 20-year-old kid and in your young 30s listening to another guy. You're a professional, and he has proven that he is the leader of the team. He is the heart and soul of the team right now. And not only that, he's giving them everything they need to win. And like you said, last year, especially as a bettor, you're looking at those 6.5 lines with Florida every game over. Bobrovsky's giving 3-4 goals a game. There's no doubt about it. They play wide open hockey. And now this year, I think the aspect that they started to grasp is just buy into what he wants. Yeah. Buy in. You guys got the talent. You guys got the leadership. Barkov's going to lead that team everywhere they need to go. And I think they're kind of just putting it all together at the right. And that's every year at the end of hockey, it's who's got the hottest team at the end of the year, who's got the hot goaltender, but who's brought it together at the right time. And unfortunately, Florida has done that. And they've ran through some very impressive teams to get here. And I think Paul Maurice is the reason for all of it.
Yeah, Paul Maurice, like I say, I was so worried, like, oh my God. In October and November, I was doing the Ice Guys show early in the season, and I was on this show, and you can go back in the archives and see. I'm saying this looks like an awful fit right now. Paul Maurice with this group. Like, they're going from a completely different style of play. He's trying to transition them into more of that chip and chase, forecheck, cycle game, defensively responsible, and not really jump into the play as much like they did last year. And it didn't look good early, but man, they have grasped it. They have gotten much better defensively. And you talk about how they were, you're right. I was betting a lot of those over 6.5s last year. Who wasn't with those Florida teams? And now this year, you'll actually look at the playoffs. They've been, maybe in the Boston series, there were a couple overs, but for the most part, they've been a dead nuts fucking under team game to game with their totals here in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And it's because Bobrovsky just is playing at such an elite level, and they've gotten such a grasp of that defensive style of play that they need to be successful in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they're actually first as far as first period unders this NHL postseason. I mean, Bobrovsky's only given up 19 goals the last 10 games. I mean, it's been a completely different Florida Panthers team than what we are accustomed to. And as a bettor, it is almost hard to go in there and look and see a 6 or a 5.5 with a Florida Panther symbol next to it. It's just something that we're not accustomed to. And, Bob and the defense, like you said, the forecheck has been insane. It's been winning them games. And, you got guys like Lambert that are just coming at you every which way and won't get away from you and are willing to fight in any second. And, not a lot of teams.
That guy's got one hell of a fucking engine, and there's no off switch. There isn't. Not with him.
Well, he is an absolute animal. A little mouse. Oh, God. Yeah.
He's a little rat. They throw rats onto the ice. Yeah, that's exactly what he is. He's a real life human form rat. Is what he is. I mean that in all respect, by the way. I do. He plays the game the right way.
His whole pregame, he's big into the stands. There's guys that are focused. Lambert's always like looking in the stands. He's always like taking it in. Like, he's just a showboat kind of guy. And for how small he is on the ice and the 100% effort that he puts in every single game, you can't buy that. You can't buy it.
You can't. There's no doubt. So we've given a lot of flowers here to the Florida Panthers the last 5-10 minutes here on the show. We do have to give some now to their opponent, the Vegas Golden Knights, because this is a hell of a hockey team right here. Their top line dominated the Dallas series, and I thought they played well at the end of the Edmonton series against that mighty Oilers team with McDavid and Draisaitl in the second round. I mean, when you look at it, Jack Eichel, who now in his first Stanley Cup playoffs is in the Stanley Cup final, he is playing great. He looks finally 100% healthy. The neck is no longer an issue with him. He's recovered from that surgery. And him with Jonathan Marchessault, and we're gonna talk some series props in just a moment, and I'll get to Marchessault with some of those props in just a minute. But Marchessault with Eichel, and the guy they got from the St. Louis Blues is on that line, as I like to call him, Ivan Close Shave Barbashev. Barbashev. He has been excellent he's one of the guys that does the physical work to free up open space and open ice for Eichel and Marchessault, and that trio has been great. Riley Smith and William Karlsson on the second line for the Vegas Golden Knights have both played pretty steady throughout the playoffs. Chandler Stevenson, who's been one of their top forwards these playoffs, is on their third line, which speaks to how depth-laden they are with the captain, Mark Stone. You look at the best line last night. It wasn't even any of those lines I just mentioned when they finished off Dallas in Game 6. Their best line was their fourth line, William Carrier, Nicholas Waugh, Keegan Colasar. William Carrier gets the first goal against Dallas. That line was just buzzing in the Dallas zone. And that's their fourth line. And it was their best line in Game 6 against Dallas. So that's why Vegas is scary. All four lines are strong, depth-laden, can contribute. And then you get to the blue line, same thing. I mean, Alec Martinez, Stanley Cup winner with the Kings. Alex Pietrangelo, Stanley Cup winner with the St. Louis Blues. Braden McNabb, good, steady, shutdown, physical defenseman. Shea Theodore, who's, I think, one of the up-and-coming rising defensemen in the league. He is a really good one, and he's still only a very young player as well, just in his early 20s still. Nick Hague, Zach Whitecloud. That might be the best third pair defense in the NHL. Maybe the best bottom pairing, third pairing in the league. And then, of
Yep.
course, good enough goaltending from Aiden Hill, who doesn't have to be spectacular because the defense is good in front of him. And all he has to do is make the saves he should make. And that's why Vegas is here. So again, on paper, I think Vegas has a little bit more depth than Florida up front and on the blue line. But Florida's been able to beat opponents that you could have said that about all the three opponents Florida's played. But I still believe heart of hearts right now, Jimmy, that Florida is going to be in for a hell of a challenge here with this Vegas Golden Knights team in this round of the Stanley Cup playoffs here in the finals.
Yeah, this Vegas team has it all. Really breaking this series down so far, looking into it. I don't mind the 130, laying the opening 130 on Vegas. There's a couple of reasons for that, and I'll touch on it. But their four lines is very scary. Jack Eichel's probably playing the best hockey that I've seen right now. Marchessault has been unbelievable, putting in goal after goal. And then Aiden Hill. What you can't say more about a guy who has 3 shutout road wins. This team has just been shutting cities down and bringing people to Vegas and slapping them around. I mean, it's been a very fun. What are we at? 6 years now for Vegas. Bruce is doing a very phenomenal job. Pietrangelo has been phenomenal. I mean, every player on Vegas right now, they're not exceeding expectations. They're just playing the best fundamental team hockey. Back with Aiden Hill, I'm a Florida guy. I don't know if Florida could really win 7. In 7 against this team. I think playing in Vegas is too tough. But like you said, just breaking down this lineup in general, I think that the depth, the time off for Florida, especially game 1, I love Vegas in this matchup. And if you are a Panthers bettor, I think you'll get a better price after game 1 to take them in the series. So I don't mind the 130 right now with Vegas. I just think that they have too much right now. They have the obviously home ice advantage here with a better record, but I just think that right now 130 with this phenomenal Vegas team, I don't see how you don't. Their road wins are too good, and it's just tough. I think that they're just a tough team. Give anybody a headache. I mean, what they did to Dallas game 6 is unbelievable. They are one of the best defensive core teams in all of the NHL, and they just obliterated them on their home ice with their last line like it was nothing.
Yeah, and you know what's amazing is I'm watching that, and of course this was last night when Vegas won 6-0 to end that series against Dallas. Dallas had 23 shots on goal for the entire game. With about 3 minutes left in the second, I looked at the scoreboard on television. There was 12 shots on goal for Dallas late in the second period. In a must-win game on home ice, they needed the game to save their season, to stay alive, and that team only had 12 shots on goal late in the second period, which shows you just how suffocating, stifling the Vegas team was defensively. And they were locked in. They finally raised their game to we're putting an end to this shit. It's over tonight. And they did. And they were just a clinical defensive outfit last night.
I think it opened up 15-2 shots on goal on your ice. Yeah. They just have no fear. They're cool. They're calm. They're composed. Their goaltender has been amazing. Looking through both series, right? Florida and Vegas, their route to get here has been so special. It's a great story for both teams, right? Obviously, especially with Florida beating Boston, but Vegas had a lot, going against Dallas was a tough matchup in my eyes. That defense is so good. And they made them look silly. They really did.
They absolutely did. There's no question. So it sounds like Jimmy's got the Panthers jersey, but you never bet with your heart in this business because that's when your heart gets ripped out. Sounds like Jimmy's liking Vegas a little bit here. Minus 130 series price. And again, if you like them to win game 1, and it does kind of feel like they might be sitting in a good situation in game 1, although I will put the caveat out there with Florida. I was concerned about the break for them after beating Toronto going into the Carolina series because they were in a 1-week break there too, with 1 week without playing after they knocked off the Leafs, and they went to Carolina and they got that 4 overtime marathon win in game 1. So they did win game 1 in spite of the long break. So maybe the long break won't be a big deal for Florida. But this is an even longer one. When
Yeah.
you factor in this isn't going to start till Saturday. That's over a week now
Yeah.
since we've last seen the Florida Panthers play. So will they be on their game? Will they be at their absolute best right away here in game one with such a long layoff like that? That ends up being a big question mark for sure. I'm going to see if I can get this share screen to work here with us there. But there we go. And we'll see if we can bring it on the screen. See if I can do the Zoom here. There we go. Let's get it a little bigger. We're going to look at a few props here. This is the largest goal scorer for the series here. This is courtesy of Bet365 here. But as you can see, this is the player to have the most goals in the Stanley Cup Finals. Matthew Tkachuk, as you'd expect, is the favorite at plus 450. Carter Verhaeghe plus 600. Jack Eichel plus 600. And I'm going to get to the guy that I think's got the value in this series prop category. Jonathan Marchessault for Vegas at plus 700. With what he's doing right now for this team, I think if you even actually look at the points, most points in the series, you could bet on Marchessault as well because it's actually been points. He's been even better in terms of production. But you look at what he did in the Dallas series. He had a 5-game point streak to end that series with 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 points in the last 5 games of that series. Going back to the last 2 games of the Edmonton series, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 games since the last 2 games of the Edmonton series, Jonathan Marchessault, he has had 8, 9, 10, 12, 13 points. 13 points in those 8 games. So to me, that is significant. And actually, I'll go to the most points in the series. What is he there? Plus 650 for most points in the series. So I think it's worth a bet, both of them, for Jonathan Marchessault. Plus 700, Jonathan Marchessault, Vegas Golden Knights to have most goals in the series, and plus 650, Jonathan Marchessault to have the most points in the series. He is absolutely rolling right now for the Golden Knights. He scores another big goal for them in the clinching game last night against the Dallas Stars. Jimmy, those are some of the looks that stand out to me as far as the player for most goals and most points in the Stanley Cup final coming up. I think Marchessault's great value. Now, look, Tkachuk's a deserving favorite, right, in both categories. I get it, points and goals. But we're looking for a little more bang for our buck. Would you rather take plus 250 or plus 650? And I find at plus 650 for the points, most points in the series, and plus 700 for most goals in the series. I truly believe that's great value for Jonathan Marchessault.
Yeah, if I'm taking a Florida Panther, which I wouldn't, and it's funny you like Marchessault because right when I said his name before, that's what I like. I like Marchessault to have the most goals. I like any Vegas player really. I don't mind Jack Eichel either. But if I'm betting a Florida Panther, I'm going to look at Verhaeghe here. I think Tkachuk's been phenomenal, obviously, but I just think that the values on the Vegas players, they're putting in the goals, they're scoring a lot more goals. These Florida Panthers games, like we said, they've been super low scoring. I just think that if we're looking for value, like you said, we're getting 600-700 here for kind of a series prop. And especially with a team that I think is going to come out on top. I really like Marchessault in this one.
All right, there we go. Jonathan, liking Carter Verhaeghe for Florida. If you had to pick a Panther, Jimmy's liking Carter Verhaeghe. Yeah, I wouldn't. I think that's a solid price. Like this is like horse racing, right? You're trying to beat the favorite here a little bit, and that's Matthew Tkachuk. And look, Matthew Tkachuk's just been so amazing that maybe he's just too good. He's going to be the leading goal scorer and leading point scorer, but I always like to say I like to look for a little more value, a little bit better price. And I find, given the price you're getting with Verhaeghe, for instance, like Verhaeghe's got a great shot, and he's proven to be a pretty big time clutch playoff scorer. And certainly I think that of Marchessault, no question for Vegas. So definitely those are a couple of good looks there. I'm just looking what else we have in terms of, there we go. That goes part and parcel with this prop here to score 3+ goals in the series. I mean, Marchessault plus 110. Like, I know the price is good enough to me. Plus 110 just to get 3 goals in the series for Marchessault. That's definitely something I'll be looking at.
I'll be looking at that minus 140 for Tkachuk, though. I didn't.
That's all it is for Tkachuk, too. This is, again, 3 goals. That's all they need for the entire series. And Tkachuk, I know he's the favorite, minus 140, but the way he's going right now, he could have 3 goals in the first 2 games of the series.
So Kachuk's only minus 140. I might have to get in on that.
Yeah, certainly. Again, you can't argue with the odds makers making Kachuk the favorite in all these scoring series props at all. Top goal scorer, top point scorer, score 3 or more goals, but and certainly you could do it. But like I say, I think Marchessault, excellent value in that, and then you can also get the 5+ goals. Although I might stick more to the 3+ goals. I want to say about the score 5 goals or more in the series. Be careful here because this is the Stanley Cup final. Teams are really locking in defensively. The goaltending from Hill and Bobrovsky's been pretty good. Everyone goes above and beyond the call of duty to block shots, in the Stanley Cup final. When you're that close to getting your name on the Stanley Cup and being a champion, you'll go above and beyond the call of duty to basically block a shot, make sure you help your goaltender out. And so it's going to be a little bit more difficult, I think, for goals to come by once we get to the Stanley Cup final. So that's why with this prop in particular, to score a player to score 5 or more goals in the series, be careful with this one. It's I don't think it's easy at this stage of the playoffs to say, yeah, as good as the player is, score 5 goals for me in the series when the checking is so tight.
Got to have one of those really big games, 2-3 goal games.
Yeah.
Something like
Pavelski did a game 1 against Seattle, right? He had that 4-goal game. Yep.
Yeah, that's definitely a long shot there.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And there's kind of one that I think you mentioned, right? Team that wins game 1 wins the series. Minus 240, a little pricey, a little too juicy for me with that price there, minus 240. But definitely, I think Vegas. I like that Stanley Cup handoff. What is that? Is that who's going to get the Stanley Cup first? Wow, that's pretty crazy. You could bet that. Who gets the Stanley Cup first?
Wow.
I assume that's what that is. Or no, the handoff, because the captain, obviously.
So they got Bob at 1.
Yeah, Bob. Wow.
They got a lot of lines favoring Florida, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Bobrovsky. They got Marchessault, Eichel, Carlson, and then Mark Stahl's up there because of how long he's been in the league. Definitely. And they always give like the older players, especially ones that have never won the cup, that first, one of the first cracks at, hoisting it over their head when they do the procession of handing the cup to every player. So that's interesting. I'd never in a million years would have thought I'd see this as an option for betting, but there you go. Stanley Cup handoff. What do you think about series total games here in this one? Do you think it's a short series, a long series? Usually what I like to do, especially if I think the series is going to be fairly competitive, I'll go with the over. I'll go with 6 and 7 games. Usually they're both a plus price. And if one of them hits, you're profitable. But it's hard for me to envision a sweep with either of these teams.
Yeah, I definitely see some games here. I don't mind 5.5 laying 190. There's no way. There's no way. These are two of the best teams in the NHL right now, and the best defensive teams in the NHL right now.
Yeah, I'll tell you who the value is for Conn Smythe Trophy, and this is now, of course, look, a lot of my Conn Smythe Trophy bets have bit the dust. Pavelski I had for Dallas, and Jake Ottinger I had for Dallas, and unfortunately they're out now. So, but look, Bobrovsky. Look, if Florida wins, it's Bobrovsky or Tkachuk. Throw everybody else out. No one else is getting it except Bobrovsky or Tkachuk. If Florida wins the Stanley Cup,
I think due to having that addition of Lyon, Tkachuk's got to get it.
Because Lyon started the first few games, and then Bobrovsky came against Boston.
But again, that's a tough one. I think with how well Tkachuk has really played in one games, literally that I would take that value at 325. And again, we're seeing these all favoring Florida.
I agree. I mean, it's kind of one of those deals where if it was the other way around, I'd say probably a little value on Bob. But now that Bob's the favorite, plus 200, Tkachuk plus 320. I'd rather have Tkachuk plus 325.
Yeah,
because I think it's a virtual coin flip right now going in, because you saw Bobrovsky have that shutout against Carolina when he was spectacular, and I'm like, wow, I think that's probably vaulted Bobrovsky ahead of Tkachuk for the Conn Smythe for Stanley Cup playoffs MVP. Based on that shutout. But then Tkachuk comes back and has that series-winning goal the very next game with a few seconds left, and it's like, wow, now Kachuk's probably back in the lead for the Conn Smythe. Like they're going back and forth on this. So I think because it's so close, take the plus 325 instead.
If Aiden Hill gets 2 shutouts, is he completely out of that?
That's a good point. I mean, I think Marchessault is my guy for Vegas again at plus 650, right? Eichel too, because but I think Marchessault has been even stronger than Eichel the last, I would say, several games. So I'd rather have plus 650 than plus 375. So if I'm going with someone for Vegas, it's Marchessault. He is a dark horse though, Aiden Hill. Like if Aiden Hill puts a blanket on this Florida team here in the Stanley Cup Finals, and you can bet it right now at 12-1, plus 1,200. It's not bad taking a flyer on that right now. Say, hey, Aiden Hill has got supreme confidence right now. He just shut out Dallas in a series clinching game on the road. How's that for building and boosting your confidence going into the Stanley Cup Final? That's not a bad shot to take at 12-1.
No, not the way he's been playing. No way. And there's no, and if he allows 1 goal a game, they get a sweep or something of that nature, there's no doubt in my mind he needs to be in the talking for it.
Yeah. The only other dark horse, I would say right now, is if he has an unbelievable series, I wouldn't rule out at that big 40-1 that you see there, Chandler Stevenson, because he's had a really, really good. He was excellent in the first round. Very good against Edmonton. He didn't do nearly as much in the Dallas series, so that's why he's probably fallen behind the pace a little bit in the Conn Smythe pecking order. But Chandler Stevenson with a huge Stanley Cup Finals, I don't think he'd win it, but he'd be a dark horse, and sometimes that's all you need to take, in terms of taking that price there at 40-1 plus 4,000 there on Chandler Stevenson.
Yeah, I think the Dallas series kind of hurt his odds here.
Yeah.
For sure.
It definitely did. So some excellent looking props there for the series props there. A bunch that I mentioned just now that I'm targeting. A lot of them revolving around Jonathan Marchessault for the Vegas Golden Knights. A surprise. Definitely enjoying or liking the way he's playing. And I think at the prices you're getting with so many of those props, you're going to be able to, I think, cash a couple of those. And certainly I like him to get 3 goals. I mean, that one especially at plus 110. And even Kachuk, like Jimmy mentioned, right? Minus 140. Doesn't feel like we're asking too much. And minimum 4 games. And if it goes 6 or 7, that's going to be an even greater possibility for Kachuk, Marchessault, or anyone else just to get 3 goals, even if it is a well-defensed, great goaltending in that series and well-defended on both sides. You're only asking for 3 goals in 4 and out, or even a possible 7 games. It's very doable for guys like Kachuk or Marchessault.
Yeah, I like Marchessault's props. I really, really do. This guy's been putting the puck in the back of the net, and Kachuk's it's been unbelievable. I can't believe that those odds are I can almost not believe that that's at minus 140. I'm definitely going to do a little bit more research into that, and I might be getting down on that pretty heavy. Could be one game, that's how well these, there will be one game that's a high scoring game in this series. There's no doubt about that. But
they're both hat-trick capable, Kachuk and Marchessault, no question. Are they hat-trick capable in the Stanley Cup Final when the defense is just that's the focus, and you're this close, and there's going to be blocking shots left and right. The defensemen, forwards are going to try to block shots as well, help out their goalie. It's not going to be as easy to get the puck to the net, at this stage of the playoffs. Even that being said, you're only asking for 3 goals. In the entirety of the series, which I think is a doable. We're going to wrap up in a few minutes, but I want to ask you about the coverage, because the Stanley Cup Finals on TNT this year, and everyone's been pretty harsh on ESPN for their coverage of the NHL. A lot of people are glad in the States that it's on TNT this year, the Stanley Cup Finals. And I like their studio crew. They're trying to emulate the success of the NBA, and I think they've got a nice thing going with Biz Nasty, Paul Bissonnette, and Anson Carter, Liam McHugh, Henrik Lundqvist, Wayne Gretzky's there now for the conference finals and the stand. They got a good thing going with that. And ESPN's just been a lot of mistakes, a lot of, mediocre coverage from start to finish, not giving hockey respect, putting the fucking baseball game that one night, not leaving the baseball game in a 9-1 game in the 9th inning to get to Edmonton, Vegas on time. It was a disgrace to see that. I know a lot of people in the States, Jimmy, they're happy that TNT's got the final this year.
I'll tell you right now, not a lot of people know who Biz is, and people are starting to watch TNT because of one person. So kind of like the Barkley Shaq thing or whatever, people like them, but
Yeah.
I'm surprised, to be quite honest with you, he made it through the entire year on this pregame. The stuff that I've been hearing him saying, there's been some stuff in the gray area with Biz.
Yeah.
And but he makes me tune in. So I'm glad that you brought that up because it is phenomenal. He's cheering every single game for the Leafs. Leafs are shutting him down. It's been phenomenal to watch, Biz. And like you said, Gretzky was on there.
Chirping him too. Gretzky was saying at least the Leafs are on milk cartons. He said to Biz in one of his shows. It was hilarious.
And like it's more of a professional based. I just feel like it's all opinionated for this ESPN coverage right now. It's just like Shaq's just talking about, I don't think he's good, or Barkley's like, oh, like last night when the Heat won. Perfect example. Barkley's like, the better team didn't win. I don't care what anybody says. Like, I don't want to hear that. Like, the better team won. They won 7 games. The better team came out on top. I don't care about Charles Barkley's opinion, And even when you're watching some of these other commentators on TNT, it's all about the facts. It's all about in game. They're breaking down the game for you. They have those tablets in front of them right there. They're kind of drawing things up. I mean, it puts good light to the game and helps people, especially in America, understand the game a little bit more. And like I said, it's a little bit more professional, but they have the raw side with Biz. And it's very, very good.
People, and the thing with Biz is, look, some people, and I think he's entertaining, he's hilarious, and some people do think that too, but they also think, he's not maybe his hockey intellect isn't nearly as sharp. But then, if you actually watch him, because I know he can come across as a jokester and comedy and meathead sometimes. I get that, and he's got some of that in him. But you watch him on that whiteboard, on a TNT pregame, and he's drawing up and diagramming what one team's trying to do against the other. I mean, a coach in the league couldn't do a better job than that.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's phenomenal, and I think that they need to figure out how to get the rest of America onto that and have them buy into it.
You want to know why Biz is still there? Because TNT said this about their NBA show, and the same thing, I'm sure, with the NHL show, since it's the same network. They just let their personalities on the air be themselves, say what they want, be true, be honest, and say what you feel. As long as you're not cursing left and right, I don't think they have too many issues, And right now, that's I enjoy being able to do that here. Obviously, on network television, you can't, but at the same point in time, I think they just allow them to be themselves. And that's why it's so popular, and that's why it's such a great show to watch. So ESPN needs to take notes on that. This is awesome stuff with our guy, Jimmy. Jimmy, we'll wrap up, and we got a couple ads to run, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap up the show. But thanks. Hopefully everyone enjoyed this. Make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, you hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. We've only got a handful of Ice Guys shows left now as the NHL season winding down with the Stanley Cup Finals. We're trying to get Bobby Ryan back on the show. He joined us during the playoffs last year. We're hoping to have him back this year in the Stanley Cup Finals, as long as we can find some time for it to fit his schedule. We've got great longtime hockey broadcaster Paul Romanuk joining us during the Stanley Cup Final. We've got a few more current and former player guests lined up throughout the Stanley Cup Final. We hope to get Eddie Lack back on the show again as well. So lots of good guests coming up for the remainder of the Stanley Cup playoffs and into the finals. We will wrap up this show with our guy, Ghost Picks Jimmy, in just a moment, right after we hear from our sponsors, Gramco and Manscaped.
Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Gramco. Whether you or your team's game is on the field, screen, racetrack, court, or the ice, Gramco is for the game. Grown by farmers who spent years developing premium hemp genetics, Gramco provides customers with consistent quality Delta-8 THC products ready for any occasion. Gramco currently offers numerous Delta-8 products, including vape cartridges, disposable vapes, pre-rolls, gummies, wake and bake coffee, and more. Gramco offers an enjoyable, legal high delivered discreetly and directly to you. Gramco is also available at many American retailers as well. You can get the best Delta-8 cannabis products on the market shipped quickly and discreetly from Gramco. And if you visit www.thegramco.com, use promo code ICEGUYS, you will get 20% off of every order, and any order that's on the site over $50 will be shipped free with standard shipping. So live elevated with Gramco and check out their wonderful Delta 8 products today.
Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the promo code ICEGUYS. That's promo code ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, it's about 14 million balls that you can preserve. The Performance Package 4.0 is the complete accessory package to take care of everything that is required. You've got, of course, the Lawnmower 4.0. Takes care of your facial hair and among other things. You've got, of course, the Weed Whacker. I'm approaching 40. Nose hair has become a major issue. It pisses the hell out of me. I need to take care of that shit, and the Weed Whacker can help you do that. Both of these products, waterproof and a 4000K LED spotlight for a more precise shave. And you'll also be able to take care of those delicate areas with the ball toner, with the ball deodorant, keep you smelling good, looking good, and feeling good down in the nether regions. This complete Performance Package 4.0 will take care of everything for you, for all you guys out there, and it's courtesy of our good friends at manscaped.com. So get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. And use promo code ICEGUYS. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. All right, we are back here on the Ice Guys, and we're ready to wrap up the show. We always wrap up with the best bet segment, Jimmy. So I know it's if it's the series price, if it's one of the series props we talked about, if you got a best bet for us, what do you got?
I'm definitely going Tkachuk 3 goals, minus 140.
There you go. Matthew Tkachuk, minus 140. Jimmy's saying, yeah, he's favored in that prop, but he's favored for a reason. Matthew Tkachuk, minus 140 to get at least 3 goals in the Stanley Cup final. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with that top goal scorer in the series prop. I'm going to go for a little bang for my buck for best bet here. Actually, I'll go with most points because he's even been better with the point production here in the Dallas series and as well going back to the Edmonton series. We'll take Jonathan Marchessault plus 650 to be the leading point scorer, most points in the Stanley Cup finals. Jonathan Marchessault, Vegas Golden Knights, plus 650. I think that is a absolutely great price, and we'll roll with that for best bet for the Stanley Cup Finals. Jimmy, this has been a pleasure, and we'll definitely bring you back on the show later in the future at some point. But thanks for joining us, and give us some final thoughts before we sign off and say goodbye.
I'm excited for the Stanley Cup. There's nothing else to say. 2 great cities. Go Panthers. I guess, but I think I'm going to be rolling with you on some Vegas props here for sure.
There we go. Exactly. You got the Panthers jersey. They're near and dear to your heart, but you know, you kind of think Vegas has got the real chance here in this series, the minus 130 with the series price. And that's where, and I am on liking Vegas a little bit too. That being said, I have a small, tiny future on them to win the cup. It's very small before the playoffs began, right. So I might do a little hedge thing again with Florida because Florida's beaten my other futures. Why not go for the fucking trifecta at this point? You already knocked out Boston. You already knocked out Carolina. I had futures on them. Why don't you take out Vegas, my other future too? Why not? You've done it all playoffs. You might as well keep fucking doing it at this point. So I feel I got to hedge again with Florida a little bit. Here in this series. Great stuff. Follow him on Twitter, Ghost Picks Jimmy at @GhostPicks_ATS. We thank him for joining us as our special guest today. I'm Ian Cameron. Enjoy the Stanley Cup Finals, and we'll talk to you again next time right here on the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now.